Welcome to the Craftsman interview. I'm here with Rod Specketer and Dave Burns from Lake Bluff Brewing Company in Lake Bluff, Illinois. And we're here just to listen to and get some of the story about how they started the brewery and the journey of opening up a brewery. We're totally legit. We're downstairs. We're near the kettles. It's awesome being down here. I'm drinking a fantastic Session Pale Ale, right?
Yeah, Gamma Ray Session Ale.
Okay, excellent. You won an award for this?
Yeah, it was named, Chicago Magazine named it Best Pale Ale in Chicago. I think we tied with
Akari
Half Acre. Yeah, Half Acre.
Nice.
And that was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. So tell me a little bit about the journey of opening up the brewing company. You guys have been around for 4 or 5 years. Just
The
talk
brewery
a little
itself,
bit.
yeah, 4 years in March. Right, but
Okay.
we started everything about 5 years ago.
Got it. How did you guys meet? What gave you the idea? I assume that you were probably home brewing at the time. So walk us through that journey of opening up this business.
You want to take it?
Sure. So Rod and I were neighbors, and we actually got introduced by another neighbor to go mountain biking together. So that's really how we met. Had a great time. Rod, totally one-up me on the slopes as a mountain biker. Made me look like an amateur. But had a great time, and through some other mutual friends, we decided to start up a home brewing club. And so after brewing a few not so good beers, the homebrew club actually became pretty good in terms of our skills and started brewing some great beers. And around the fire pit, as the story goes, when guys are a little bit looser and saying we need to start up a business for whatever it happens to be, that conversation came up with our homebrew club, and we're like, wow, Lake Bluff, it's a great town, but it would really be great to have a good local place for people to come together.
We needed some
socialize.
nightlife in Lake Bluff. There wasn't a whole lot in the downtown area, so it was,
Yeah, and we love craft beer. We love brewing. Love the idea of it. And so we said, let's do it. And, it just kind of faded off. And then Rod and I and another one of our friends, Michael Goldsberry, we were brewing at Rod's house. It was a couple months later, and the topic came up again. Why don't we do that? That's actually a really good idea. And
we were drinking.
we were drinking.
Imagine that, right?
But every guy seems to have that conversation. They're like, oh, we should open a bar, or we should open a brewery. And we just kind of decided, we should actually follow through on it and do it. So.
Yeah, and I think the tipping point was Hoptacular 2010.
Right.
So we needed to incorporate because we needed to actually be a company at that point. But we brewed a bunch of beer, brought it down to Hoptacular as a brewery.
Okay.
Told them we had a production facility.
Yep.
I don't know if we're supposed to say anything, but yeah.
Bent the rules a little bit.
Right.
But brought a bunch of beer down there, and that was our litmus test to say, hey, are we just thinking our beer is good and friends are telling us it's good,
Right.
but it actually sucks? Or is this something that we can build on? And the feedback was fantastic.
You even got interviewed at that.
With
first year.
I can't remember, Hopcast?
Yeah, I think it was Hopcast, yeah.
So it went really well, and that was kind of the tipping point that said, hey, this is going to be something. And so Rod and I, at that point, decided to go forward with it, and next thing you know, we had a lease, and we were buying equipment.
Right.
And it took about 9 months from that point on, from Hopcast, or from Hoptacular, to opening up in March.
Yep.
And it was a stressful, exciting, a lot of work, filled 9 months.
Yeah, we did a lot of the work ourselves, so we were doing after work, coming in and be here till midnight, painting or doing whatever else needed to be done. So
Building
it
the
was
bar.
Building the bar in Dave's garage in the middle of winter.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
that's a true entrepreneurial story.
Yeah.
Just getting after it while you're raising big families and you have young children and you've got careers.
Well,
Right.
part of it, which also defines why our brewery is so small, is that this isn't like a big, investor type thing. It's just Rod and me.
Yeah, we just did it.
We took our savings, and the size of the system that we got is what we could afford,
Yep.
and what we could afford to get space for. You could get a bigger space and bigger, but this is what we could afford, and so we had to do a lot of the work ourselves. We pulled in neighbors that were good at things to help sew curtains and to make cushions for the benches, and another neighbor that made the benches for us up there.
The banquets upstairs, yeah.
So it was really a neat kind of community type of event to help support us. And yeah, it's worked out really good.
Yeah, we had a
great.
bunch of guys come in, I think, was it a Saturday, and we all were staining everything upstairs. It was freezing outside, so we had the doors closed. So everybody was getting high off the fumes and drinking beer while we were staining all this stuff. So it was not a real safe situation.
Was this space open, or did you kind of have to wait for it to pop open? Or
No, it was open. It was raw space.
Really?
Yeah.
It was the lab space.
Right, we were going to try to
It's a
open
great
underneath
spot.
the bank at the end of the building.
Okay.
There's a 4,000 square foot basement underneath, so we're going to do that and kind of do a speakeasy type thing, and then this was available, and we just couldn't, pass up street level.
And you guys kind of amplified this area a little bit over the last few years, right? I mean, can you talk a little bit about some of the events that you do and what kind of nightlife you brought to downtown Lake Bluff?
I think, Rod, you should speak to it because Rod's a, 3-generation?
Yeah, native of Lake Bluff. Yeah,
Native of
Really?
Lake Bluff.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of what we're bringing today has to do relative to what it has been over the years.
Right. Yeah, there was when I was a kid. We had like grocery stores, hardware store, and this is kind of boring. Gas stations. So we had an actual downtown, and that went away. We started losing businesses, so it was a bit of a ghost town. We had a pharmacy, and then businesses for whatever reason started shutting down.
Right.
So Dave, when you moved in, we still didn't really have much of anything. We had
starting to come back,
right,
but it was still pretty
but there really
sleepy.
wasn't much going on. I mean, it was, I don't want to say it was boring, but it was really quiet. We like to think that we helped, kind of kickstart things in the downtown area, and now we have a bit of a nightlife, and you can actually bar hop in Lake Bluff, which is cool.
Yeah.
So we had the Kinavasi across the street, started things off. John DeRosia, the owner, was a friend of ours, and he helped us out a lot, so we really appreciated that.
That's great.
So yeah, it was kind of, we thought it was the start, and then some other businesses started opening up, and yeah, now we have a nightlife.
You guys do a pretty cool event in the summertime. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest differences in terms of the vibe of what the brewery has done. I mean, as Rod said, the daily type stuff is great, and we've kind of created a more vibrant everyday atmosphere. But during the summer, usually it's about once a month, sometimes twice a month, we host a block party, and so the village has been very supportive of this.
That's
But
great.
we shut down the street right in front of the brewery, which allows more place for people to go, but it's also more safe for the kids, so that they
Right.
hang out over in the village green, this kind of park area,
Yep.
and they can hang out over there, play football, soccer, frisbee, and the parents can hang out in the street. We usually do it on a Friday or Saturday evening, start around 5 p.m., and then we have anywhere from 1 to 3 bands play,
Nice.
and it's totally free. So it's our pleasure to get the bands, get the entertainment, and then usually it's somewhere anywhere from 3 to 500, depending
Yeah, we had
on
a lot of people coming.
depending on the size of the
It's
event. And everyone's just hanging out and relaxing. It's low key.
Great
It's
way to
not
end
like
the
this
week.
big
Yeah.
festival or
Yeah.
carnival, but it's a great social environment. Everybody has a great time. So
It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's fun.
Yeah.
To kind of again get some nightlife here in downtown Lake Bluff. So,
Right.
yeah, I would say that's our best events or the block parties.
So going back to the brewing part, Dave, you've got a lot of. This is your recipe, correct? The Gamma Ray.
Yep.
What got you into brewing? Did somebody buy you a kit? I've heard that story quite a bit.
Right.
That is the story.
That's the story? Yeah.
Well, I should say
Sorry.
there's a lot more to it. So,
Okay.
yeah. So my wife ended up getting me the kit as a gift for me.
Okay.
And I'm an engineer, a mechanical engineer, and so I love process. I love
Yeah.
kind of the operational, the
It's right in your
science,
wheelhouse.
science behind things, and then I also love to cook. And
Wow.
really, brewing is a perfect marriage between engineering and cooking. A lot of chemistry, a lot of biology, and then also there's the artfulness of cooking, and creating a recipe. And that's what I really enjoy the most about it. People, I think, sometimes don't understand how many different variables there are, from the hundreds of different malts out there to the hundreds of hops, and then you start talking about the different quantities and when you use hops and the temperatures that you use for fermentation, and there's just so many variables that as an engineer, it's fascinating
Yeah.
to try to learn about what drives a beer, what drives a good beer, a bad beer, different flavors of beer, and so I just really took to it right from the start.
Yeah.
And then of course I love, as does Rod and most of the guys, love to just drink it. I mean, it's great. Of course, craft beer versus macro. It just has so much more to it, and I think the other part about it too, there's a satisfaction of making something of your own.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You know, like whatever it is with cooking or building, what have you, creating something was also something that turned me on to it.
And you still homebrew quite a bit.
Yeah. I've got
You still got the club
I've kind
going?
of tapered off a bit, but
the club has gotten a little bit dormant, but
it's more of a drink. I mean, it was always a drinking event, but I think it's become more of a not so much brew, but to bring beers over and try them. So it's been more of a tasting.
Yep,
club.
but I still homebrew, and so what I do is we've got, at this point probably 30 different recipes that we could brew here.
Wow.
We started with about 12 to 15, and then I've added, as I homebrew, I just come up with more and more recipes over time, some of which make it to the brewery, some of which don't, for a good reason.
Yeah, that's kind of the process. Is we'll come up with something. All right, well, let's think about what style we want to bring, depending on the season. You know, obviously we need to have some lead time to figure it out. If it's summer, it's going to be something a little bit lighter, like Gamma Ray. So Dave will homebrew it first, and we'll kind of go through a few iterations and hopefully get to something that works.
That's cool.
And then I got to give props to our master brewer, Mike Dornicker. He also comes up with a lot of recipes. In fact, it's been switching. I mean, I still come up with some recipes from time to time, but really now at this point, he's been driving the brewing operation from day to day since for the last 4 years. So I was doing it in the beginning. He took over, and he's come up with a lot of really good recipes. One gold medal winning recipe, Cosmonaut, barrel aged imperial stout. And I also, during that same period, came up with our Velvet Hammer vanilla porter, which won a bronze. But it's not a, who can come up with better. It's just if he comes up with something that's good, we put it on. If I come up with something good, we put it on.
Yeah,
so
let the creative process just
exactly.
roll.
Right. We'll do
see whatever happens.
Yeah, we'll do brewers handles. We'll just tell them, look, go nuts. Do something really weird, and it usually works out.
Yeah,
that's great.
Sometimes it
Sometimes
doesn't turn out the way you want.
Yeah, exactly.
The way you think it's going to turn out, but it usually ends up tasting good.
Yeah, well,
And
he's really talented.
Mike is schooled in the business and
he went to Siebel Institute in Chicago.
Yep.
There's one in Frankfurt, Germany, and one in Chicago. So yeah, that's what he went to school to do.
That's great. Going back to the food thing real quick, Dave, talk a little bit about that. Have you guys, is there anything that you haven't done that you want to do as a brewery yet? I'm sure you're still growing into this, but I always think of food pairings and things like that. It can be a blast, really pairing up. Beer's finally getting its due. Wine it still has a good run, and I love wine, but it's really exciting to see what some of the chefs are doing with craft beer and all that stuff. So,
well,
we've done some cheese and beer pairings with Caputo's in Lake Forest.
Okay. The beer dinner up at the Vine.
Right, we've done a beer dinner at the Vine. Market House as well. One of our better customers in Lake Forest. We have a cupcake pairing today for Valentine's Day, so that's going on upstairs at some point. I think it starts at 2 or 1. I don't know. It might be going on now. So anyway, we're expecting a lot of people to roll out for that, and then Mabry next door just opened about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So we taled about doing some pairings with them as well.
And you did a collaboration with Hansa Coffee, did you not?
We did, yeah.
How did that go down?
It was
fantastic.
Great. Yeah, the beer turned out really, really well. I mean, it was great.
Yep. So we already have a milk stout that Mike came up with, and by itself the milk stout is great. And then we cold pressed the Hansa coffee and put it in after fermentation, and it's delicious.
Yeah, it was really good.
Do you have some of that on tap now?
I think it's gone.
Is it gone?
It's gone.
Yeah, it was gone pretty
I think
fast.
it was just a
How many
5
beers?
gallon keg of it, so it went fast.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's what we want it to do, right? Go fast. How many beers do you have on tap usually? I know it's obviously rotating with seasonals and different lineups and stuff like that, but
7 to 10 at one time, I would say.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we try to keep a variety on tap, so at least 7 at a time.
Yep.
So where's Lake Bluff Brewing Company 3 years from now?
That's a good question.
What are you guys doing? Do you have a master plan or a dream? We're gonna take over the block, or hey, we want to stay small. What are you thinking?
I guess I'd say we're trying to figure that out now. I mean, that's the conversations that we're having.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, because it's a side business for Rod and I, we have our other lives. One thing that's helped our ability to kind of manage this is not to set any strict goals that we have to be here by this time.
Yeah, right.
We just don't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. We
go
go in
with
the
flow,
direction we go in the direction that we want to go, And if we get there in 3 months or if we get there in 3 years, that's the way it happens. It's not like we're a public company and we have shareholders we have to keep.
Right.
And we manage it accordingly. We don't want to try to grow too fast. We try to do things cautiously so that we don't lose control and we don't have quality issues and stuff like that. So we're distributing now. We distribute kegs and also bottles. But the rate at which we continue to grow that, the market will define that for us. And so in 3 years, we could be a huge Chicagoland, powerhouse, or we could be a local pub with some distribution out there.
Yeah, neither of those is bad. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's great. As long
and so
as
we
you're
just
having
we just
fun.
don't. Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
We're just.
This is a
we're
fun
just-
thing, and it's been a great ride.
Now, you guys spin vinyl here.
Yeah.
I take it you're both music buffs. Talk a little bit about that. Do you have a special night that you let people spin vinyl? I know there's some restaurants and breweries that do that.
Yeah, Tuesday nights, people can bring their own albums in, and if Pato, our manager, likes it, he'll go ahead and he'll put it on and he'll buy you a beer. So that's that's the special thing. But we always have vinyl playing. I don't think we use MP3s at all anymore. We were for a while.
Time to time.
If the if the turntable breaks down, then we have to. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been kind of a cool thing. One of our bartenders brought in. She got this big console, like one of those old '70s turntables, all in one, like the stereo. So she brought that in before she took it. She owns an art gallery in Reinvent in Lake Forest. Before she took it down there, so we had that for about a week, and we really liked it, and people seemed to take to it. So we just decided to make that full time. So
Keep
now
going,
we've
yeah.
probably got, I don't know, total, I would say, with albums down here, we're probably pushing 500 or so. Yeah, we got
several hundred.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've got a lot of vinyl.
So where can people find your beer as far as the liquor stores or other restaurants on tap? Talk a little bit about the distribution, and also what's your address here?
That one's easy. 16 East Scranton in Lake Bluff.
All right, good.
Right downtown Lake Bluff, all 2 blocks of downtown.
And you got a website?
We do. lbbrew.com. I think you can put lakebluffbrewing.com in there as well, and it'll
Great.
pop up.
Cool.
Lake Bluff Beer, and it'll come
Yeah,
up.
and it'll come up.
Got it.
So if you
Okay.
Google
Doesn't
that,
take
yeah.
much to find it. 16 East Scranton.
Yep.
Yeah, so where can you find it? I would say, it's a fairly long list, but I would say, Binny's is a big one that most people
Yep.
know, Gold Eagle in Libertyville. And, most craft beer centric stores will have us.
Okay.
So Art of Beer, Craft Beer Store in Libertyville.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, bars and restaurants. Many have us, but it's, I'd hate to tell you where to go find it, because what we're finding in the distribution business as more and more craft breweries come up is that restaurants and bars are becoming less loyal. And so in the interest, which, as a consumer, I think it's fantastic, people are looking for more variety. So if they've got 8 tap handles, they're not going to want to keep the same 8
Right.
beers on at any, for any length of time. They're going to want to switch it up and give people a variety. So what we're finding is that we get on somewhere and we're on for a few months, we're off for a little bit, then we come back on. So it's fluctuating.
Yeah, Ferkin and Libertyville is a good example of that. So they tend to rotate out all their handles. So
Yep.
it's not any kind of disloyalty on their part. It's just that's what they
Rotation.
do. So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
be there for a few months, and then we won't
I know,
be back on.
To your point, Dave, the tap handle business, it can be a rough business in Illinois.
It's hard to
I know,
get
in Lake
tap handles.
County.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big guys are aggressive as far as
We
that
won't
goes.
get into the dirty pool that's played.
Any events coming up that you want to plug or talk about?
Just the block parties. I think we'd like to see people come out for those. They start generally in May or June, depending on the weather.
Okay.
So we'd like to get them fired up in May. As Dave said, usually 2 a month, depending on how busy it is in the village. So yeah, we'd like to people come out, check out our website. Our Facebook page is probably the easiest way to find out when we're having the block parties.
Great.
And then we also do music inside the brewery.
Right.
So,
Okay.
that's a little less off. Once a month, maybe every 6
We've been
weeks.
trying to do a little bit more than that. We've got the Luxmen are playing in May, I think May
May.
2nd. Yeah.
And we're probably
So
gonna
that'll be the
line
next
somebody
band, I
up.
think.
We
We might have somebody in April.
We
Yeah,
might,
we'll probably
we
have
might line
somebody
somebody up in April, but that's where
Better
check
someone, yeah.
check the website.
So check the website, check Facebook.
Facebook is usually the one that's updated because
Okay.
it's easier to update. So yeah, Facebook's probably the easiest way
Great.
to find it.
2 last questions, if I can.
Sure.
Do you guys have a favorite brewery? Somebody that you feel is just doing it right, whether they're big, small, local, non-local?
You want to go
Do
first?
you have any favorites there?
Go for it. I know who you're gonna pick. Well,
I predict. Yeah, I like Dogfish Head.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think they put out really, really quality
That's
beers.
That's a creative joint.
Yeah, like 90 minutes great. Midas is great. I like their stuff.
Yeah. How about you, Dave?
That's a great question. I just like so much variety. I think Lagunitas does a great job. I
Yeah.
just think their quality. I think it's just reliable as just a solid high quality, and they have such, they've got some interesting mixtures out there that they do. They don't just have their standard lineup. They switch things out. But people ask me like, what's your go-to beer other than Lake Bluff Brewing Company?
Yep.
And I don't mean to be a cop-out, but I just think that defines craft beer in that I don't have one. I am constantly searching, and I almost shy away from beers that I've had already because there's so many other varieties to try out. It would just almost be wrong to go and just do something.
Right.
And so, of course, I do. Bell's Two Hearted is a good. I go back to that
that's a
all the
great
time.
beer. Yeah,
it's a
great beer.
great standby.
Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is just a classic. That's
Yeah.
the standard
Yeah.
in the Pale Ale.
Yeah.
It's just an awesome beer.
Yep, and and it kind of depends on the the style. Unibrow makes great Belgian beers, and so, but I'm constantly looking for new stuff,
Yeah.
and I think that's the fun of it.
Well, it's a great discovery process. I'm with you on that. Last question is advice for anybody that's opening up a brewery. There are a lot of people that are having these conversations
Right.
that
We
you
talked
guys
to a lot
have.
of them,
And what would you give them some tips, some cautionary tales, whatever. It's
I guess
hard
it
to open up
depend-
a business.
Yeah, it depends if you're doing it full time or if you're doing it part time. I think that would be, if you're doing it part time, maybe don't do it. Outsource the food.
That's
but
good.
well,
That's
that's
a good
kind of
point.
specific to us. I mean,
Right.
Food's kind of a pain in the ass, but we.
I'll let you think about it, but mine I think is a pretty strong, and I don't think it's anything that we've had to deal with. I think we got lucky and we had a good interviewing process. We found a great brewer. Mike does an excellent job for us, but I think you just have to, in this market, you have to have the best quality product. Not the best quality, but you can't sacrifice
be top
anything on
quality.
quality.
Right. Consistency.
And with all the selection out there, if your beer is not to that level, you'll be passed over and you'll never get back into the market again. The word will get out, and so you just have to, no matter what your label designs, how cool they are, or what cool events you do, the beer quality has to be
Speaks for
top
itself,
notch.
yeah.
And so for those new brewers out there that are thinking they're pretty cool, that's the part that I think they just need to vet and make sure that it's really as good as they think, and especially at a production level, because it's different brewing as a home brewer at a production level.
That makes
so
sense. Yeah.
Just be careful with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say this kind of, I guess, reflects what our roles have been. At least when we started, Dave was more back of the house, I was more front of the house. He was with the operations, and I was working with the bartenders and management. Hire really good people, and don't, make sure that you do a thorough interview, and if it's people whatever, just make sure you hire quality people.
Yeah.
The way that we've done it, doing it part time, we really outsource a lot of it. So like Pato Thornycroft, our manager, is great. People love him. He's part of the reason people come in. So
I've heard his
that's
name quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pato's awesome. So that'd be not to kind of steal your answer, but I
No,
think it's
no,
kind of along the same lines.
I totally agree.
If you don't have good people working there, you won't do well.
Yeah, game over.
Yeah.
Get by with Leslie.
Yeah, there's that too.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you guys want to give a shout out to anybody that really helped you? It sounds like you mentioned a couple people.
Well, I think our two key employees. I mean, they're as Rod said, Pato Thornycroft. He's our bar manager, and just keeps the front of the room going day to day, and is a great, excellent face of the brewery for those customers that are coming in. I mean, Rod and I come in from time to time and see customers, but he's that consistent, friendly, welcoming face.
Here every day for the most part.
Keeps it together. And then Mike Dorniker,
Yeah.
our master brewer, he's the guy that makes the beer. I mean, I used to do it in the beginning, but every day, day in, day out.
That's hard work too, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
just
that's
keeping the
labor
level of
intensive
quality.
work.
Yeah.
Yep. So those two guys they're just huge.
That's
And,
great.
and the
agree.
rest of our staff too. I mean, we've got too many to name, but
Right.
we're real happy. We've chosen.
We've
some
gotten lucky,
good
yeah.
folks.
And I would say I don't want to say we figured it out, because I'm going to jinx it, and then we're going to get some clowns in here. I think we've been fortunate that we've hired really good people.
Well, it speaks to who you guys are and what your thoughtfulness is and all that kind of stuff. So it's great. It's great.
Cool.
All right, man. Thanks again, Rad.
Thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
And perfect timing, 10 to 2.
Well done, guys.